Longevity, the concept of a long life, is not just reserved for human beings anymore. The principle is also important for our robot friends. Today I'm talking to Victor Splitgerber. He's a German CEO of Waku Robotics. His core offering is giving operators of fleets, of industrial robots, of warehousing robots, more uptime, more reliability, more preventative maintenance. We get into how German automotive pioneers have been on the forefront of workflow, early maintenance, and a lot of that is now being brought into robotics. He's an interesting person because he applies his approach to total wellness, maintenance of his body, to what he's offering to robot builders out there. Let's increase the uptime of our robots. Let's do preventative maintenance and learn more about why that's important. On this episode of Robot Builders Club, I'm your host, Ali Afzal. Let's dive in. Thank you, Victor. It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have you on Robot Builders Club. Thank you for giving me your time. I know it's the end of the day for you, so thank you for making yourself available. I'll jump straight into the core idea of Waku Robotics. Most robotic startups, they're either selling autonomy, they're selling intelligence, or now they're selling human replacement. You went with Waku Robotics reliability and maintenance. Why was that the area you chose? And why is maintenance, you believe, so undervalued in robotics right now?
Yeah, Ali, first of all, thanks for hosting me. And let's dive into it. So why is that important? I guess maintenance is kind of a very boring word for describing the daily operations of running a robot. Like robots are autonomous machines, but they are only autonomous to a certain degree. I guess maybe that's also kind of a mislabeling or misconception where companies that buy robots assume they install them and they don't have anything to do with them. And I guess like out of this misperception, we saw it ourselves in projects we started a lot with renting out robots. And we saw that the team on the ground, the people that are supposed to run the robot, they don't know how to interact. That's basically the misconception here. Imagine you have a mobile robot that is driving or cleaning, and then it stands still and is blinking red. And you don't know what to do. And no one feels responsible. So, and because they are autonomous, like to a large degree, they stand in some corner of a warehouse or of a factory so that maybe a person is noticing that it stands idle, but it can take time, right? Because it's autonomous and can be in some location where no person joins, or the person that passes doesn't feel responsible. So we saw this many times that projects fail, like I called it a graveyard of projects. So they're really like, no one likes to talk about it, but there are really like hundreds, if not thousands of robots that are standing in the corner, certainly millions of investments because of that. So there's a need for the end user to get those machines running, right? To give the teams on site the right information. And the same need is from a vendor because the vendor has the same problem. They want to sell more robots. They want to make the project successful. But if the connect between the on-site team and the robot vendors doesn't work, then the project will fail. So there is this huge need of getting successful, and we are bridging basically the gap between the robots and the operators.
No, that makes total sense where all these different implementations cannot be successful without a proper idea of how the maintenance will work. Do you think that when a company in an industrial or commercial setting is deploying, you used a mobile robot as a use case, when they're deploying a fleet, have they not considered the maintenance side of things? Is that a common theme?
I think like generally, like what's the state of the industry, so to say, right? If you walk into a random factory or warehouse, usually there is no maintenance system at all in place. So it's called reactive, right? Something breaks down, a person goes there and fixes it, which is expensive, like that's why we also expand into other areas, because like if you only fix once it broke, you miss the opportunity to act before it gets very expensive or you have a breakdown of your production. But it still works, right, to a certain degree. So like most of the companies don't have this covered. But once you introduce robots and you invest like a few million into a robot fleet and you don't have that fixed, the project will fail almost certainly. Let's say, like almost certainly, because like there's of course those installations where you deploy a system and you don't take care of the maintenance at all, the service provider does it, then okay, like it's not your problem out of an end customer perspective. But for the service provider, it can get very expensive if they don't have a system in place. So we work with a lot of system integrators and OEMs that do this service, like cover everything, but like there's the same, like they manage it, but it gets very costly if they miss the overview, if they don't act on the data, if like you go on site and you forget a part to bring with you. So like it's the first time fix rate, so to say. So like you want to go, like if you go visit a client, right, you fly across the country, then you want to make sure you have everything with you that you need for the maintenance. You have essentially like a slightly different problem set. It's just expensive. You manage it instead of the end customer where you might not manage it and the fleet breaks down.
Right. For your core product within Waku, what is the core value proposition? What is the core product?
So we offer an end-to-end software solution which covers everything you need to run robots, but to a larger degree, a robot is part of a factory or of a warehouse or of a hospital. And so we include that as well. Oftentimes a robot is the most complex machine in that environment. Like we start from there and we automate everything around running those machines on a daily basis, which has not to do exactly with really like production processes, but really like the support processes to get the machines running. And that is like the processes include, okay, ticketing, something breaks down, I need to report it, or like some employee needs to report it, right? Remember the blinking robot in an aisle. So there needs to be a way for this person to report, hey, there's a robot standing idle. Or we do it ourselves based on the data. So that's kind of predictive maintenance where we ingest a lot of data and we flag what needs to be done to fix this problem if it is if data are available. And then we schedule the work. The software schedules the work. It allocates the right person, but also spare parts. So is the part available? Do I need to order it? What is the price? Where is it located? These kind of things. And also how to do it. So like really detailed instructions based on AI. So the system is learning. So not everything is documented. So it can make suggestions how to fix things. So that's basically the product. It's called maintenance management system to some degree, but it covers much more. So I'm shying away of just calling it maintenance management system because then there might be a picture where I say, hey, I go there once every half year and do something. But in fact, there is much more to it, like the ticketing. That's something that is ongoing, or the data, the overview, oversight of the machinery, and acting based on those data and finding the sweet spots, how to operate your machinery is really the core. And then like the ultimate metrics is like getting better uptime of your system availability, and decreasing cost for going somewhere, stuff repairing, labor cost hours for spare parts.
That's a great summary. So end-to-end service and repair, work order management, you got inventory management in there, dashboarding to allow operations to ensure uptime, part replacement, all of that stuff that you need to keep the operations running. That's very much needed and is going to continue to be a gap. So you're operating at that intersection of robotics and operations. You're an interesting man. You've lived in Peru. You've built companies now in Europe. What would you say, what experiences shaped you, how you think about resilience and sustainability and robotics?
That's a good one. It's ultimately, I worked for Zalando, where I also was leading the e-commerce section of the business, or like the robotics part of the e-commerce. And so that taught me about like how difficult it is to get something, a system running stably in an environment, right? But then there's also, of course, always a private part to it. So I started actually my master's degree was about predictive maintenance in agricultural machinery. And there it was like for seeding machines, vibration analysis for seeding machines, because like you have like those 2 weeks in a year where you get out your seeding machine, right? And you need to plant your seeds in this short time window. And if it breaks down, then like the whole investment of the machine basically gets at risk, and not just of the machine, of course. Like you miss opportunity to plant plants at the right moment. So it's a very expensive problem, and I started my career in that domain.
Interesting. That's an interesting arc to think about. I can see how you were inspired by maintenance there. And in our conversation, in our intro conversation, I learned more than just this, you being CEO and founder of a maintenance as a service robotics company. You're a parent, as am I. You're deeply into fitness. I'm trying to get there. And you have a concept of you want to optimize, you want to maintain, you want to have a life that is around sustainability. Are there parallels of what you're doing in your company in your life?
Yeah, so certainly, right? I guess it's a mindset, as you pointed out correctly. And, I try to like live like also now a life that supports like my well-being in 10 years from now, in 20 years. What it means, so like it trickles down to every aspect of my life. So like one is fitness. So I do 5 times a week sports, follow the Huberman protocols, like clean eating, like so it's all like one part, right? I say like, okay, I live healthy because if I now live healthy, I'm sure that in 10, 20 years, the rewards is like more in 20 years than it is now. But it, like it gets there. And same, of course, financially is always an aspect, but it's also like always a balance, right? So you said I have kids, and I have in fact 3 kids, right? And having also there a balance of saying, okay, like how much time do I take to be a parent, right? To be there with my kids, because now is the time for that one, and it's also kind of an investment in a relationship. So I want to have a good relationship with my wife and with my kids. So I need to allocate time, so to say, to have also not just now a good relationship, but to build the foundation for basically the rest of our lives, not just mine, but also my family's life. Because if I don't invest now, like the time to build that relationship, if I start in 10 years, then it's a bit late.
Right.
They're out.
Absolutely. Interesting. You're talking about balancing all of these different aspects of your life and growing them and keeping them going and looking 10 years out and all of that. I'm curious, do you think that's something that Europeans are doing a better job of than on the American counterpart? I don't know if you've seen that parallel. I think here, at least from our side of the fence, we often feel Americans have a poor balance in terms of health, in terms of relationships. I'm painting with broad strokes again, but that's our perception, the people that you talk to. I'm curious to see, do you agree with that? And what is your perception of the American way of doing things? We're going a little bit off topic here, but curious to hear your thoughts.
So I'm following Andrew's Huberman podcast, who is a Stanford professor.
Yeah.
So he like it's a really scientific approach to the whole topic of well-being, right? Like in every domain, so to say. So it's an American person. So like it's like there's definitely this movement there, and I guess it's not just in Europe. My perception is it's more related to the interests of the individuals, because like also like in like if I look around, how many people do 5 times a week sports? I know very few Americans, and I also know very few Europeans. So I'm not sure how different it is, right? And of course, like there's almost this epidemic of stress. Like everyone feels super stressed, and my belief is that like under stress, you also do poor decisions. So it's there. It's also like like managing stress and managing the time well is like leads to better decisions and therefore takes off work, because like if I do a bad decision, to recover my error, my mistake, my bad decision takes so much effort. Like if I think a bit more clearly and more calmly about a problem, then that's reverted. It also frees up time effectively. So it's an investment also there. Back to your question, I'm not sure. I probably like healthy eating and so on is a bit more a thing in Europe than it's in the US. But then on the other hand,
yeah, I guess a little bit of both. So it depends on the individual, like you said, and I think there's also a cultural element to it too, that we historically Americans have done not as good of a job managing stress and focusing too much on the career, perhaps, and we're finding our balance. Good conversation there. Let's get back to what you were talking about on the Andrew Huberman side of things, and how that relates to maybe robotics. Andrew Huberman, he's big on overall, like you said, total well-being, your sleep, your load management, recovery, exercise, mindset, all that full end-to-end maintenance of you as a human being. How does that principle or that philosophy, you think, show up in how you're designing robotic systems?
Yeah, it's broad stroke, right? So like in general, it's more the perception, what do I need to do now to be successful in 5 years, 10 years, right? So like I guess it's a lot around that concept. So, and I need to take decisions anyways, right? Like everything I do is a decision. Even if I don't do things, it's a decision. And so I want to allocate my resources well and thoughtfully. And that's why I invest privately, so to say, in those things. And I also educate myself, right? So like listening to those podcasts, are super in depth. Like, at least like if you're not professionally going into one direction, like it's like 4-hour podcast on just one aspect, like nervous system recovery, or I don't know, a light therapy for human or for vision and sight. So it gets very detailed into specific topics. So and that informs also how I approach robotics. So I really want to get into the details, right? And then like getting a conclusion out of it, and what do I need to do now, like to invest. And that is like back to the robotics, or like in general, like operations. So if I run a factory or if I run a warehouse, what do I need to do now to be successful in 5 or 10 years? And the world is changing so rapidly, right? Like with robotics, like we have the only system that is specialized in robots, but we have clients, of course, they manage all sorts of machines and conveyors and equipment, and I said even hospitals. But the world is changing so quickly, and like I guess many companies miss the opportunity to invest now to educate their personnel, their team, to run robots, right? To give them the right tooling to get this transition right. Like I always describe it also a little bit like if you think ChatGPT, how much it transformed our daily like work life, right? Like when it comes to emailing or like researching, or like everyone uses ChatGPT, or like some LLM product doesn't need to be, or coding, it's in every domain. It's just in every domain. We don't see this yet in the physical domain. It's all like on the desktop PC, basically. The next iteration will not be on a desktop PC. It will be in our physical environment. So it will be autonomous cars. It will be autonomous forklifts. It will be humanoid robots. It's all of that. But that changes much deeper. Means much more changes for the processes. Like the change process is much more difficult in the physical world than it's in the digital. So there we support. There we help companies, also enterprise companies, to get this transition right, because it's like it's change management is the right software stack in the back to start now. Start with lighthouse projects, and then step by step getting to the future, which is a reality in 5 or 10 years, which is like maybe not 100% autonomous or robotized, but like many applications will be possible and getting possible. like
Yeah.
every day basically. So there's an enormous amount of money floating into the space, and so this is my approach, right? Where we help companies to get like to the right level in 5 or 10 years, right?
No, that's nicely put. There's a large opportunity because there's a seismic shift happening. Like you started your comment there that AI, the intelligence side of things, is becoming more mature. We have access to foundational models that are becoming more mature and are taking into account larger data sets and now applying, giving access to that intelligence in the physical domain where human beings operate, whether that's at work or at home or in retail or elsewhere. So there's a big opportunity, and we're going to see. We've been saying it for some time, but I think now 2026, 2027 are going to be those milestone years where we're going to see major adoption. There's a lot of companies coming up in the space, which creates opportunity for maintenance, for service, for repair. So, in your experience where you're working with other companies, what are you seeing for fleets, for robotic fleets? What breaks first? Is it the hardware side of things? Is it software? Or is it the people side of things, organizational?
So it depends a bit on the use case and on the vendor company chooses. So like it's the playing field is absolutely not leveled. Like
Mm-hmm.
the choice of the use case and the right vendor for the right use case is a difficult one. Let's put it that way, right? Because otherwise you can burn a lot of money because you start with one vendor and then you know that you have to change. By the way, we also do consulting where we help companies to identify those use cases. So therefore we know pretty well. We have a very large database. It's called lotsofbots.com. It's a free database of mobile robots. That's the first step, and then the implementation. It's so difficult. Like it's so different from use case to use case. It's mostly not the hardware, right? It's the hardware is something that like there can be problems, but those are usually fixed in the implementation phase. I guess it's oftentimes it's not so clear where the problem really is, I would say. So that makes it so hard for everyone involved, right? And again, like I would say most of the products, the bigger products are really hardened. So what I mean is like they're really robust. They have done many installations. It's a mature market in a sense, right? But they're also like less mature. Like let's say humanoids. If you deploy a humanoid project, sure you have problems on all ends or everything you said, like mostly software and hardware.
Right.
Other products, it's more like mostly probably on the software end, but like there are also like many projects that run really smoothly and ramped up really smoothly, and there's more like a question how to get my KPIs, like where they have to be and which levers can I change to increase my throughput, my output of a system, for example. So then it's more less about stability, but more about performance, I would say, and how do I get very resource efficient in running those systems. And I guess like there's also the opportunities just to make it more tangible. AutoStore is a very common storage system for logistics. There are like those small robots that run on top. There are 100 robots maybe in a fleet. And now like one company has a couple of those systems deployed across different sites. And now one maintenance technician, so it's a real case, right? One maintenance technician has a bot, has an error. Error is just saying front right, there's a problem.
Okay.
And he dismantles the whole robot, changes every part of the robot, almost takes it from the spare parts package, right? And after 2 or 3 days, he finally found the right part. Like after he changed the main platine and the wheels and sensors and so on, right? And now imagine like half a year later, the person left the company or is not there, or the same problem happens at a different site where there's a different team. Usually there's no means of exchanging information between those teams.
The
So
tribal
you
knowledge is
start
gone.
to invent the wheel again and again. So this is the kind of efficiency blockers that I mean. And it's just a small example. There are bigger ones, maybe also more costly ones, because we had a lot of redundancy. But this is, of course, like in IP. So like the nature of the company changes slightly. It's the IP of running those systems that they're building up, right? And if they don't, they lose resilience of running. They're so dependent of individual persons, and if those persons leave, all the knowledge leaves. And we have cases where the overall productivity dropped by 10 or 20% of a company or of a production site, because like 2 or 3 critical maintenance engineers left the company, and the people that replaced it didn't have the knowledge how to run those the factory efficiently. That's that's what I also mean with investment into the future. Right? It's like I have to build it up now in order to have a resilient operation in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's really valid point. It brings up a thought in my mind. Do you think there's an opportunity here for for companies to be designing? You had mentioned mobile robots, AMRs, right? So should we be designing AMRs with maintenance as a core requirement? Would you say there's something that needs to be changed?
So like there's the core value is still somewhere else, right? So like maintenance support is still is a supporting function. It's not the core value of a system, to be clear, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I would just say, so like we have one of our bigger clients is Dexory Robotics. They started with us last year, and now they're scaling like fast, really, really fast. So I guess they are 10xing the number of robots deployed in a year. So if you 10x your service team, you still can't keep up because you lose so much information. So like these kind of companies, they invest into tooling like ours, like Waku Care, in order to enable growth, right? In order to make sure that the customer still has an excellent experience. Because like it's always said, right? The first product is sold by the sales guys, and then the other one is sold by the support, essentially. So like how well is the system running? And that is again like a kind of this investment perspective, because you somehow can manage and like try to survive with Excel sheets. Many companies do. It's certainly possible, right? Just not very resource efficient.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the preventative maintenance piece you were talking about. It sounds boring to somebody until something fails, right? So how do you convince leaders to invest before things break?
It's very clear, right? So like we have so many cases where the data is available, right? It's like it's already there, and you have people looking at the data. So you pay persons to look at the data. And if they're on vacation, no one looks at data. So something breaks, right? And that breakdown has a cost. And if you have this automated, this looking at the data, and of course, like with a look from just looking at the data, probably a human misses a lot of nuances and a lot that is hidden in the graphs, so to say, right? Which you can do machine learning. You can extract, of course, much more knowledge than if looking at a graph, certainly. And so by doing that and correlating maybe even of many different assets, you can save a lot of money on replacement cost, of repair cost, of material. That's the main saving. And of course, like that's not always the case, but like if you then also increase uptime, then you have the perfect business case. It's certainly something that pays off. Let's put it that way, right? So like you get all the benefits of preparing for future, right? Let's say like you educate, or like you give your teams a very good tooling, and you also get a good business case, because like you avoid breakdowns, you avoid the cost associated with a wrong timing of exchanging parts. And so you get a very good overall package for investing into tooling to modernize your operations. If it is a vendor or like a factory or a warehouse, doesn't really matter. And we also, for example, have wind turbine producers.
Okay.
It's a totally different domain, but you also like you have a lot of data generated like from the rotors and so on. And of course, like ideally you don't go there just every 6 months, but you go there if you see like see something in the data, and by seeing doesn't mean that you have like a person sitting in a room looking at the data, but you get an email, you proactively are notified and
Trigger
said
goes
like this
out. Yeah.
person could go there, right? And with this tooling. So it's an obvious choice. Like it sounds very obvious if you talk, like if we are in the robot space, right? So like we are used to work with data. We like this is our home turf. In other domains, it's not, like, and certainly in maintenance, it's totally not data driven. It's like many it's paperless driven, so, or Excel driven.
So to summarize, you're basically saying that let the dollar and the cent and the savings for somebody who's running an operations, let that dollar side of things sell the maintenance, because there's an impact. Just like we think of human longevity, now that robots are going to be commonplace in all these different settings, robot longevity needs to be thought about as a principle as well. The sooner your robot quote unquote dies, that's a dollar hit to the bottom line of a company. So you want to extend the longevity, and that can only happen if you're doing preventative maintenance and doing the proper service and repair.
Let's add to this well-phrased picture. You also want to reduce the amount of doctor visits. Like,
Yeah.
you have like some urgent, like health crisis. Let's put it that way, right? Whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
Rika, I'm never sick. I can't even tell you, like when was the last time I was like so sick I couldn't work. So like it's like basically doesn't happen because of that. So and you want certainly the same thing you want for your systems, right? For your machines. You don't want them to call the doctor that urgently needs to fix something for your machines. Like you want to run them smoothly. So you invest before something happens. It's the
For a
same thing.
crisis
And
happens.
so that's a prevention thing, right? Where you say like, okay, like you might go to a doctor to check things, but that's a cool thing with many machines, and certainly with robots. You don't have to go to a doctor because all the data are there. You just have to look at the data, like that's the thing. If you go to a doctor, they check, like your blood pressure, your heart rate, I don't know, your sugar levels in your blood. With robots and I said wind turbines, you're all the, like you have so much data. You just need to do something with those. So you can even avoid going to the doctor at all, and you can avoid like those breakdowns, like those surprising breakdowns. Yeah.
Would you say there are cultures or industries, I'm putting a widespread here, that intuitively understand maintenance better than others?
Let's put it there. I guess in automotive, like I'm now speaking more of company cultures. Automotive is like is already there. Like there it's so clear. it's so clear that you do maintenance based on the data because they have this uptime requirements. They have done this many years ago,
Long time.
but they're like, it was because it was expensive, no one else did it. So automotive had money. Now like those same technologies, like the automation holds place in other industries, robotics holds place in other industries, and the same will happen with maintenance practices. So I would say it's more that like those learnings and company cultures where it's a lot about performance and uptime and so on, now also more relevant for other companies because of automation. So like to be more concrete, logistics is like, it's in many places, most of the places very manual. Like you have forklifts, you have people that go around, right? And only like the last few years, more warehouses get automation. Shuttles and conveyors and robots and all of that. So, like they outsource, like logistics companies, many outsource the maintenance, which is a great business for the system integrators, which is fair. But like there's also a movement of insourcing the operations of the machines, like it was with cars, right? Car manufacturers for sure don't outsource all the maintenance because of course it's more expensive. Right. You get a service, but it's expensive. So I guess there will be, or like, it's not just a guess, but I see many companies building up the IPs themselves.
Yeah. And you mentioned automotive. I guess that That's a good way to, if you want to look into the future of the robotics industries, probably in terms of the scale and in terms of the full vertical stack, it will go the way of the automotive industry. They've had a long time to iterate to build their manufacturing capabilities. So
Yeah, yeah, it's
would you say
well put.
that
Yeah.
that's where we're headed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfect analogy, right? And why is it? Because like automotive, they had like a production line that runs the exact same ways, maybe for years, right? 2 years now. There are more changeovers, but like initially, and so you know exactly the payoff of your investment. And that was the old generation of robotics. It was so expensive. Yeah, it took month and month to program a robot for your whole team. Now why does it become available for other industries as well? Because of the AI. What took months
Mm-hmm.
is now basically a few hours, because you can train based on AI in a virtual world, and you deploy those systems. They're very versatile, so you can use them in other domains like logistics or small batch production also. Was not possible. The technology was not there a few years ago, and that's why we see this shift. So it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest myth founders still believe about robotics adoption?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess many founders, not just the founder, also the buyer side, they underestimate what it takes to have a successful project. Like the adoption, the physical AI, so to say, right?
Yeah.
What I described earlier is so much harder, and is also so much harder because of the processes have to change because of the people, right? Like the people change much more slowly currently
Yeah.
than the technology does. So
Yeah.
that is a challenge. So like even like the podcast we are doing now is very important, right? It's very great that you do this,
Thank you.
because like we constantly need to communicate what is happening in the world, right? Because like for most of the people it's so not obvious what is happening there, and so like that it trickles down to an actual installed project takes so many steps, right? It's not like, you know, like we have ChatGPT and we talk about ChatGPT and then you open your browser and you start ChatGPT. Hey, you know, like you experience it. The path to having a robot where you say, hey, physical AI is the thing, and now I want to experience it, it's so much longer, right? Like until you found the process, until you installed the project,
Adoption,
risk
all of these,
management, you know,
it's a
safety.
multi-discipline endeavor, right? So that's
Exactly.
totally makes sense.
So being in that analogy, like you open ChatGPT in your browser, and then, you know, like it takes you 1 minute to get there, and it certainly takes you like probably a month. You know, like even if you like probably if you're fast to have a proper project, maybe if you want to have a pilot and you want to have a quick, maybe you get it quicker, but it's pretty unrealistic, right? It's even pretty unrealistic to think that you get something done in a month today.
Mm,
It's like for enterprise, it's almost impossible, I would say, and like not even in days, right? We are so far away from that, and so like that's why we have the
yeah.
LLM adoption, like for chatbots and so on, was so quick because it's so much easier than physical AI.
Would you say then that is the gap in terms of expectation of founders and operators, that they're gonna drive value faster than it actually happens? That is your main point there.
Yeah, I think it's like we are adding one part to the ecosystem, right? Like one with consulting, or maybe it's two parts with consulting and with the operation stack. Like this is one tiny bit. It's just, you know, like it's the last piece in a long chain, the operations piece. There's so much more before that all needs to come together, right? It's a huge ecosystem that is building up, and everything, the every puzzle pieces need to fit together to get it running. And also the corporates, the end customer, they also need to understand how to get it running, and need to make the adjustments and so on. So
Yeah.
change takes time, certainly. That's why like the big humanoid companies eyeing for households, because household adoption might be much quicker.
Less rigor in terms of the demand being put on the humanoid. But on the flip side, the safety side of things is probably even more intense
Yeah,
for, you know,
it's I think it's also pretty unrealistic to expect something like a humanoid in the next few years, right? And for a household, I was showing a video to my son like of a humanoid cleaning up, and he said, "Ah, that's cool. Can we have one? When is it ready?"
yeah.
I was like,
Is that the 1X?
"Yeah, exactly, the 1X video, right?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's get one." And I like, it's not not there,
Yeah.
not there yet.
But it shows how intuitively we want one, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's
it's we want a
exactly, yeah.
companion, we want something that could do things for us. We're
Yeah.
technologically getting there, but system wise, having a full systems thinking of what could go wrong, what is needed from a safety perspective, from uptime perspective, cost quality perspective, that will take some time maybe dialing in, but we will get there eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If I tell my son, "Hey, go make the dishwasher, right, and or empty or empty the dishwasher," and he's like, "Oh, that a robot can do it." Yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but you're right. Like if like I guess like many adults, like that's kind of the cultural change, right? Where in the
hmm
head it's like maybe this Terminator picture and it's awkward and dangerous and like alien. It's
yeah,
strange. So many react like in fear or like refuse to change. That's also component of the change management. Right? Where the younger generation, my kids are say, "Cool, it can empty the dishwasher." Get the thing.
yeah.
It's
And
like, yeah, it's
that's
so straightforward.
that's been sort of the human arc. Every time a new technology comes in, the first response is fear and saying, "This, I don't know about this." That's sort of the jerk knee reaction. When electricity was coming up, there people were saying this is going to be really bad. Electricity is
Yeah,
dangerous. Same thing with automotive. When first cars were deployed, people were
yeah,
questioning, do you really need to go that fast? What's wrong with a horse? What are you in such a hurry? We don't see the use cases. So yeah, that's definitely the same parallels there. I want to talk a little bit about Waku, go back to Waku Care. If you were to start the company today, if you were to build the product that you're offering today, what would you do differently?
that's a good question. So I guess we are in a very good spot. So like positioning and product and so on is really good, right? The way getting here was a bit lengthy. So I would start right here. What I said, like we started with robot as a service, right? We deployed robots ourselves. So we had to do the learnings ourselves. Knowing with everything what I learned, I would start right here. Like I skip the line, so to say, of making all those learnings. We also like manage robot fleets for like with our software. So really assigning jobs, assigning path which the robot should take. So path planning and job orchestration and so on. So like we went really, really deep into the stack. If I would start again, I would drop that and start right here.
Hindsight is 2020, right? You look back and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're going through the journey, that is, you can only move forward. You don't have foresight necessarily of how the industry will change, especially
Yeah.
something as complex as robotics. And who would have thought about AI becoming such a force maybe 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. Was not there. Yeah. Like the adoption rate that was estimated also like 6 years ago was quicker than what we have now, like for mobile robots, for example. So like there's those aspects, and yeah, and like that's part of being a founder of taking decisions where you don't know, like you don't have full information, and it's kind of 50-50 or so, right? I say like I can
Yeah.
take this or that direction, and sometimes you're on the good side, sometimes you're on the wrong side. So it's part of the game, right?
Part
And
of life.
maybe also part of maybe there's also part experience, right? I have or gut feeling and those kind of things. So I guess like
Luck
we
also
get better,
has a lot
but
to do with it.
yeah, and accept the risk. That's part of like part of the game, certainly. And
Yeah.
my but by the way, like my believe is also that the very successful companies, I mean, like there's a part of experience and just drive, like, like they're very successful founders. But certainly it's also kind of an outlier where, like you take a lot of decisions, you flip the coin, right? And statistically, you're like 50% heads, 50% tail, right? But like for some founders, they had 10 heads in a row. Just because they were lucky, and those are the outliers that we are seeing. That's also part of the story, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Luck is not in your control, but if you take some people get luckier, but as the saying goes, the more shots you take, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
Right? So that's also part of it. Taking shots quickly, that's part of also lean startups, right? You want to do quick learnings and move on, rebound from your failures. Yeah. So we looked at the past. Let's now look at the future. 10 years from now, what do you think is going to matter more? Smarter robotics, smarter robots, or better maintained robots?
So it depends for whom. But I guess the capabilities of those systems, it's a bit uncertain. It's like no one really knows, to be fair. And it's kind of the imagination where this all goes in 10 years. Does it take a learning curve like we saw in capabilities for LLMs in general, right? And we see the same thing for physical AI. I guess it's not super clear, but what is clear is that we will have more robots than now. And so like running robots efficiently or not just efficiently, effectively, I should say, in a company. So like adopting this new technology for companies that operate in the physical space. So production, manufacturing, warehousing, and so on. So where you really like move physical stuff, then the companies that master physical AI and master how they change the companies and the culture of the companies to run those systems, they will win. The winner will be the companies that learn best to run those systems. And
Have resilience.
that's not a given.
Yeah.
I guess, like some companies just won't adopt quick enough because also of the acceleration, maybe invest too late they're just overtaken. Like, like we saw in automotive, that might well happen. And they might just then, like let's assume Walmart misses, like to invest into the technology, and then they buy all the labor from Tesla because Tesla knows how to run robots, or like from a Chinese company, or it's unlikely, but so Walmart, the other scenario would be they master robotics, they're independent, and they learn how to operate like robots at scale across their entire network, and then they can even sell that service to another retailer that didn't adopt quick enough. So there will be all those changes. So I guess like from many companies level, I said like maintenance, it's not exactly maintenance, because maintenance, like I have to look at it every half year. Like what I mean is like daily operations. I have my, like the company culture of many retailers especially is I have untrained people that can come today and leave tomorrow. And I get a new person, and that is like within a few hours, within a day, they know what to do. But if you run robots, that's not the case. You have educated people, you have processes, you have learnings. So like that's what I mean with company culture. So like many retailers are handling a lot of people as well, right? Or logistics companies, they're people companies, and those companies become technology companies. It's like with car makers, right? Like some became technology companies, but some not. And the same will happen in manufacturing and in retail and so on. So like all those companies will become technology companies essentially. And if the companies that learn and how to manage those systems best, physical AI, so to say, they will have the biggest margins, and the others have to buy the capacities from the companies that managed best.
A lot of seismic shifts. So that's nicely put. Like there's we know, I liked your starting point that your starting premise that there will be more robots in all these different facets in human life, and that would lead to new services, new offerings, new companies, new viewpoints. Are you optimistic about what the future holds for humans, for regular people in this mix?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I always give this example, elderly care, right? So like people are very alone, right? Like old people in elderly care are oftentimes very alone. You have people like the caretakers or caregivers. They have to rush, like they have to rush and they don't have time. They are super efficient, but what the people want is time. So this is just one example, and I can give you countless others where I say, hey, like there is really a lack of resources. Like so many in education, right? And like my kids are in school, there's 30 kids per teacher. So
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great if we have like maybe 10 kids per teacher, or maybe 5, right? Like what does it mean? Like it's fantastic. Like where you can support kids, for example, or elderlies, or like in all domains, like just have more time, like especially in those cases, right? And so I see so much opportunity and so much need for resources
Yeah.
and domains that we don't see, like that we tend to overlook right now. Of course, it's a big shift that is happening, but I'm also very optimistic that we will it will be great.
Yeah, that's nicely put. I think there's seismic shifts also happening in human populations. We're getting elderly, like elderly care that you mentioned, where population sizes are declining. There's going to be need for staff augmentation. There's going to be need for more help from potentially all these robot use cases. So that makes total sense, and love that you're optimistic. No, I appreciate this has been a wonderful conversation, Victor. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom. We're gonna move into the tradition that has been established here at Robot Builders Club, which is go to the lightning round. I'm gonna send you off by thanking you, but I'm gonna throw a whole bunch of questions at you really fast in this lightning round, and get your first reaction. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Sleep or training? Which one do you think founders neglect most?
Sleep.
More sensors or better maintenance data?
Better maintenance data.
Why?
Because like most of the sensor data are not used. So like let's start, like with the stuff we have before we add.
Love it. No, it's so true. Longevity pill or perfectly maintained robot fleet?
Longevity pill.
Then you can make perfectly maintained robot fleet once you have the longevity.
Exactly.
One thing robots do better than humans.
No, they don't need sleep.
One thing humans do better than robots.
There's like so much more, like flexibility. Humans are very flexible and kind.
The human side of things, yeah. Best thing about Peru.
Well, that is like very grounding, very grounding. Understanding, getting perspective of everything we have.
Best thing about Berlin.
It's opportunity. You can do so many different things.
Best thing about Silicon Valley.
It's a lighthouse. Looks at it in the startup domain. Everyone looks at it as a role model.
What's your perfect workout?
I love running, so running through a forest, 10 kilometers.
Nice. And finally, you come back from 2050. It's been 30 years into the future. What are you telling us about the future of robotics?
So we started to get robots as our friends, I guess. We are spacefaring civilization that never gets old, and robots became our friends.
Very hopeful, very inspirational. I loved your first principles approach to how you were explaining things. I learned a lot, and I'm thinking this will be very valuable to other companies that are thinking about getting into robotics or building robotics products. Victor, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and let's stay in touch, and hope to see you soon. Hopefully in one of these conferences, the one in Atlanta that you were mentioning.
Modex.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Ali. You're a very great host. Great questions. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Talk soon.